our scholars. How was that night understood? Do we have any scholars who've spoken about this?
Yeah, so, and that's actually an amazing point. If they're going to come in and make a critique about something that's in our tradition, that internally we already have it discussed, this is one, I think, it's disingenuous of them from the beginning. And two, when they bring it up, they strawman the whole position, because whenever the videos that I have seen that have been made about this, they leave out the part of that last sentence that's here in Musnad Imam Ahmed, number 3945, for people who want to look this up, and then 3788 in other prints. But that last part they leave out because they don't want you to know that he was actually there for a purpose, which was reciting the Quran, which we have the Quran talking about that exact night that was there. Right? And then the straw man position that they make is that these were human beings and not jinn. And we're going to get to the scholars. But that last sentence, إِنَّ الْقُرْآنَ أُوحِيَ إِلَيَّ فَقُرِيَ عَلَى الْجِنِّ. Okay? The Quran was revealed to me and was recited to the jinn. And this was what the Prophet ﷺ told to Ibn Mas'ud. Now, the scholars who did tasheeh, who did authentication of this, the only one that I could find that made this a authentic hadith was Ahmed Shakir, which was one of the muhaddithin from the past. And he's not that well known for being one of the greatest authenticators of hadith, but he did do tasheeh of this in his tahqiq of Musnad Imam Ahmed. However, many scholars since then, including the board at Darus Salam, they said this was weak. And Imam al-Albani himself, he didn't list it as fabricated, but he said that it is from the gharib traditions, which is in the weak traditions. So there is some ghuraba in the chain itself in different parts of the hadith. So,
any thoughts on any of that?
He said that we skipped the part where
he recited the Quran.
Muhammad recited the Quran. No, we have it in our on our
in the original slides that we did with you and Raymond before, when we were on that stream with you guys, that was we had that there. We have it today.
We can share.
It's okay. We don't need to show it, but
yeah,
no, it's okay. We have the same thing that we have. Oops, what's that? Okay. Oh, sorry. I thought we exited by mistake. Yeah. So that we have that, and I don't know what videos he's watching where what he's referring to. Obviously, it's not your videos because you're reading the whole entire thing.
I don't think I talk about. I'm trying to think. I don't think I talk about the jinn, but there's a reason that.
I mean, the stream that we did with you, we read the whole thing.
Oh, okay.
The whole entire thing. Yeah.
No, there's a. Let me explain how I interpret hadiths, Muslim cowboy. And I'll give the example of the satanic verses. You go to the earliest versions of the satanic verses, they're pretty clear on Muhammad reciting the satanic verses because, he really wanted his tribe to convert or to stop persecuting Muslims, but he wanted his tribe, the Quraysh, to join him and so on. So he's longing for some revelation that would help them. And then he's reciting the Quran. He's reciting a new surah of the Quran, and then he gets to part, and Satan gives him the words, and then Muhammad recites these words, the satanic verses, telling people that Allat, Alus, and Manat, these three pagan goddesses, can intercede for Muslims. So you still have Allah, the main god, but now you have pagan bird goddesses who can fly your prayers up to Allah, and he confirms them and so on. As the story goes on, it becomes more embarrassing, and whatever's most embarrassing, they start watering those things down. They start changing it to where you get to later versions where Muhammad doesn't say the satanic verses. Satan imitates his voice. And so it just sounds like people thought Muhammad said it, but Muhammad didn't really say it. So in other words, they change the story over time to make it less embarrassing. So when I'm reading a story like this in your sources, it's okay. Muhammad goes out in the desert. He tells Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, stand behind the Didi line. And then he's out in the desert with a bunch of men of al-Zutt who rode him all night long, mounted him and rode him all night long. He returns all worn out and hurt from what they did to him and passes out on Abdullah ibn Mas'ud's lap. If That's the original version of the story. That sounds pretty embarrassing, right? We have lots of people who would just go, whoa, that sounds like something really, 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 really disturbing was going on with our prophet. Later on, does it make sense that people would say, yeah, maybe those were jinn. Maybe those were jinn. And maybe they're reading the Quran. Maybe he was reading the Quran to the jinn out there or something like that. I can see something like that happening. Right, I can see something like that happening. The story just doesn't make sense if Muhammad went out of the desert to recite the Quran to the jinn. Why are they mounting him and he's returning in pain and stuff? It just doesn't make sense. If there's some original story where Muhammad's out in the desert with the men of Zutt, and then Muslims, as they add their embellishments, which they do, we know this happens. It happens over and over again. They embellish and change things to make them less embarrassing. Kind of makes sense that we get the versions that we have now. So anyway, you can completely disagree with that methodology. You can say, no, we have to stick with the hadith as exactly as is written. That seems silly. We know for a fact Muslims change things to make them less embarrassing. So you can reject what I'm saying. I'm pointing out you can't expect me to go to every hadith and interpret it the way you want me to interpret it, right? If I know you guys embellish things, then I'm looking, okay, what? And I know you guys change things and add details and take out details and stuff to make stuff less embarrassing.
Which is what he did.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
He was happy to leave it like that.
Yeah, he was trying to leave it
the
up.
writing part. Yeah.
Yeah, and if it wasn't for his friend kept cornering him,
he would have left it out completely.
And so, yeah, that's how I read your sources. So one, I can read sources exactly like you read them and say, okay, here's what the story says. But if it's a story where it's sounding like something weird, I try to think, okay, what do I think is the historical core here, and what do I think could be a later embellishment? The story makes no sense if this is about Muhammad reciting the Quran to some jinn, and they're crowding. It's a really, really, really. The story doesn't make any sense, and so my sort of evolving version of the story would make sense. But anyway, what do you guys? Anything else?
He was lying, saying that the hadith is gharib. Gharib is a term. He was trying to say that it means it's weaker than it should be. That's not true.
Yeah, it's actually the
opposite. It makes it stronger.
Yeah. So At-Tirmidhi says that this hadith is Hasan Gharib. And then if you don't know what that means, you can go to Islam Web, and you go to Islam Web, and on Islam Web they define what that means. And it says the hadith about which At-Tirmidhi says Hasan Gharib is stronger than the hadith about which he says Hasan only.
So Hasan means good. So if he just said Hasan by itself, it would be good enough. He says Hasan Gharib, which is even stronger.
According to his own terminology. So he's actually wrong about that.
So he's using the word gharib because in the modern sense of the word, it means strange.
Strange or odd
but that's not what it means
in hadith terminology.
In the ancient gradings of hadith, it actually makes it stronger. So here he's being deceptive.
Once again. Yeah.
Shocker.
Yeah.
So from scholars who have come since Ahmed Shakir, they have talked about this. Nonetheless, if you look at any of the scholars who even discuss this hadith, when they talk about it and they break it down, let's pretend like it is sahih. Say Imam Ahmed Shakir was correct in his authentication of this, right? Which it appears that this hadith is not rigorously authentic. But did this still happen? Yes, we know that the Prophet ﷺ did go meet the jinn. Yeah. Because there's also other hadith, like the one I was trying to read earlier, that doesn't even mention the Yarkabun part.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, in other words, some people would want to leave out the embarrassing details.
Either way, what we do know is that jinn are mentioned in this hadith and in others. The Quran is mentioned in this hadith and in others. So we know this.
Because you brought the other hadith in. And what's the view of the scholars on the other hadith that doesn't mention Yukrabun?
Well, they've just mentioned that...
is it still...
No, that he was just standing there until the end of the night.
No. I'm not talking about what it said. I'm saying about the authenticity of it.
Oh, it's also not that authentic. I mean, they're all pretty... but because there's a lot of different narrations, it strengthens it as a story as a whole.
The Prophet did something with the jinn.
And because of the Quran, we know that the Prophet...
you hear that, David?
What's that?
Do you hear that, David? Because there's so many narrations of it, even if they're weak, that points to the veracity of the story. Oh, interesting. Okay, good to know.
Wait. So if I had 50 versions of the Satanic Verses, that's good to know.
Strong to me.
I might need to clip that because he's finally making sense on one little point.
Because I think the Zutt story, I've only seen it like 4 times, maybe like 4 or 5 times. I don't know. And he thinks that that's a lot. Like, because there's so many corroborating stories, but even if it's weak, it's.
But Tirmidhi said it was good.
Yeah, but and also
Ahmad Shakir
as well.
I said it was sahih.
The chain is sahih. Yeah, but the point is though, he's saying that because there's so many, therefore it must have happened. So okay, great rule. Thank you for that rule.
It's like if you have 50 people, let's say each one of them is weak, and they all narrate the same thing. The story happened.
Maybe there's some truth to it.
There's some truth to it, even if each one is weak, which isn't actually for the Zutt story. There's a lot of strengths in some of these narrations.
Yeah.
Someone just said, honor scholar said, Hamza looks exhausted. Everyone see Hamza there? That's what Muhammad looked like.
Yeah, he's
after the night of al-Zutt.
Yeah, he's like trying to pull teeth with this guy, Muslim cowboy. He can't get him on the same page as him.
What is happening is that he can't get a straight answer. That's how we feel when
that's
we talk
a good
to Muslims.
point. Yeah, that's a good point.
It's like, can you please focus on the problem part?
Yeah.
And what is the grading of that other one that you said?
Like, they're doing the Dawa tactics on the Dawa guys.
On each other. Because he knows the pushback. Muslims will be like, well, you didn't actually address it.
Mm-hmm.
It did reveal to the jinn because of what we have from the Quran. Now, regardless of the exact way that this event happened.
These books are huge. They're like 15 feet behind them, but my goodness.
That night, what happened? Not a single scholar. There is no scholar in Islam, from our scholars, who say that they were human beings.
Okay, that's
the important point. So whether or not this or that, why was he tired, none of them agree that they were humans. Okay?
Okay, hold on.
And now, if you're going to make this internal critique about us...
What's that?
Now,
make this internal critique.
This is internal critique.
Quit saying internal when you're talking about the story of al-Zutt and what they did to your prophet, dude.
So whatever happened, it wasn't done by humans. That doesn't make it good.
Yeah, not only that, but like we were saying earlier, the jinn, according to Islam, they can take on physical human form. And there are some scholars, there's a mixed opinion. Some scholars actually say that jinn can have intercourse with people, with humans.
Yeah, jinn like eat food and things like that.
Yeah.
They eat things and so on. So they're physical beings who are invisible usually. But then they can become visible, but they're physical beings. And so what's weird is, I mean, again, if I'm thinking about the evolution of the story, it would be like, okay, so Muhammad meets some men out in the desert and this happens to them. Let's say it's jinn and so on. That makes sense. But if you're talking about physical beings mounting and riding your prophet, and the word is used of sex, and he returns all worn out and hurt, it just sounds like you're saying a bunch of physical beings who are jinn appeared and did all the same stuff to him, and that this is what gave him the strength of 30 men.
Yeah, someone in the chat, they rightly labeled it Jintercourse. It's Jintercourse. That's what it is.
Everyone in the chat, keep that word because I'm going to forget it. That's an important word to add to our repertoire. We want to keep that. We want to keep that word for future, whenever we're talking about this story and people want to say, oh, but it's jinn. Okay, then they were having jintercourse.
And make it extremely derogatory. Now you're going to have to prove to us from your outside perspective how jinn could even have these kind of relationships.
Yeah, but they can slip that.
Well, I know, but I'm saying now are you saying that you believe in jinn, right? Right, because they don't believe in jinn. They believe that Satan was a fallen angel. There's no third category of these jinn.
Yeah.
Okay, so you'd have to
but it's an internal critique, so they don't have to believe in them.
Yeah, but they're using external methods to deal with this internal critique. They're already kind of...
No, they're saying that we have to believe this thing. So it's about our...
Well, we're not saying you have to. We're not saying you have to believe anything. We're saying you have this story, and it sounds really bad, and it sounds like Muhammad got banged by a bunch of men of the Zutt, so from India, who were renowned for their sexual potency and virility, and the fact that they were always ready for sex. Sounds like they were with Muhammad in the desert, did something to him that was described as mounting him and riding him all night long, and he returned in pain and passed out and put his head down on Abdullah ibn Mas'ud's date bowl. And so that's what it sounds like. So we're pointing out, it's like, hey, your prophet sounds like he did something messed up here. And we could be extremely charitable and give you the benefit of the doubt and say, oh, you're saying it just means crowd around. Oh, okay, we can't find that anywhere, but we'll just take your word for it. And you're saying, oh, this word doesn't refer to sexual intercourse in Arabic, when we know it does, but we'll just pretend you're right. We could be extremely charitable and go with everything you're saying, but you seem to have missed the entire point. We're adopting your method, except we're not lying. But you guys go to the Bible, you flat out lie about it. You flat out lie and come up with these insane, ridiculous interpretations that make absolutely no sense of the passage. And so we're responding and saying, fine, don't tell us to give you the benefit of the doubt on when we're talking about your sources. Don't. And so now this is the boat you're in. This is the boat you're in because you're sitting here with a guy, the Muslim cowboy, who completely lies about the Bible constantly. Okay, Don't tell us to go with his interpretation of the story of Muhammad and the men of Zutt. No, we don't have to. We can go with exactly what it sounds like. And so, no, we don't. We know you guys aren't going to agree with us. We know you're not going to, oh yeah, Muhammad got banged in the butt by the men of Zutt. We know you're not going to say that. But we're going to use it to point out how screwed up your prophet and your sources are. And how hypocritical you are in your methodology when you demand the charitable interpretation for your sources, but you go with the most insane, deranged interpretations of our sources that your God affirms, oddly enough.
And this weird idea that they're getting at here between themselves, arguing about whether it's internal, external critiques, and what you're allowed to do and not allowed to do in argumentation. It's a very strange discussion. These guys are just making stuff up. They just don't even know. But you can tell it's like, if they can't even agree amongst themselves, and these are the Dawa guys, on what argumentations are, it just like how much less are they able to even communicate that to us, like the outsiders. Like they can't even tell themselves, oh, you're allowed to do this, you're not allowed to do that with this type of argumentation or that type of argumentation. One guy has one set of rules, another guy has another set of rules, and so that's why you have all these Dawa guys, I guess, contradicting each other so much. But what's interesting about that is that he tried to discredit us talking about this because, like, oh, you guys don't have a category of jinns. You don't have a category of jinns, so therefore this can't even account. You can't even account for this in your reality. And I'm thinking, first of all, that's ridiculous. Okay, so if a Muslim sees something and they describe it as like, oh, they think it's a jinn, it's like someone saying they saw an alien or like a UFO. Like a Christian is not like, oh, that didn't happen just because we don't believe in aliens or something. It's like, oh no, that could be a demon. It could be a demonic manifestation or something like that. Or, it could be, we believe in demonic forces and we believe in angels as well. So we believe in the spiritual world and a spiritual realm. And we know that there are real angels, there are real demons, and they exist. So if someone gives an account and they say, like, they saw an alien or something like that, it doesn't necessarily mean they're lying. They could have seen a demon. Or someone said they saw a jinn, they could have actually seen a demon. They're just writing it down as if they saw an alien or as if they saw a jinn. And he's saying, oh, you can't account for that as a Christian. You can't account for that because you don't have jinn. Like, these guys are so ridiculous in how they do their critiques.
Yeah, the way I see it is, it could have been seen as jinn, but they were just normal men of Zutt.
That's
what I mean. Why are the jinn appearing and looking like the men of Zutt?
Yeah.
So he's describing, and then he's passing it on, and Muslims are sharing the story and stuff like this.
It's like when Dihya al-Kalbi would come and
Muhammad would say, it's the angel Gabriel. Yeah, guys. Yeah. By the way, notice the parallel there, right? So Muhammad, when he was in private meetings with Dihya al-Kalbi, he would say, "Oh, that's the angel Gabriel. He just he takes the form of Dihya al-Kalbi to look like him." Okay, what do you really think is going on when Muhammad's in his private meetings when he's falling asleep on Dihya's lap afterwards? Like, what do you think is actually going on? That's really the angel Gabriel?
Yeah, the date bowl.
Yeah, because we don't really believe it was Gabriel that came to Muhammad doesn't mean we can look at it and say something else weird happened.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so you see the same thing. You see the same thing here. Muhammad's doing something weird with doing something shady with Dihya al-Kalbi, and what's he say? Oh, it's the angel Gabriel. And here you have a different kind of situation with that. Muhammad's out with the men of al-Zutt. No, and Muslims. Oh, it must be Jinn. Okay, you can believe it's Jinn, but not what it sounds like, guys.
Yeah, but it's completely
no. But what I'm saying is that just because they don't have to believe it happened. They don't have to believe Jinn exists.
But if they take this position, saying that we have to believe it, and we have all these other descriptions of things that happen, they also have to accept that if they're going to use it, all these other aspects of what we believe in Islam also have to be valid if we're going to.
No, we don't.
No, just
no,
because
Oh, Hamza's just even Hamza sees that he's stupid here. He's like, dude, I know like we're both white Muslims, and I know like people like to glorify us because we're white Muslims, but I mean, I'm sorry, dude. I'm not gonna kiss your butt like the other Muslims. I'm gonna tell you you're wrong.
Yeah, just imagine that. Hey, if you accept that there is a reliable historical kernel here, then you have to accept everything else in Islam. No, what planet are you from? Like just imagine.
It actually makes sense to him, David. It actually makes sense to him. That's the craziest thing.
He's not very bright.
Yeah, no, he's not. No, and think about that. Think about the hypocrisy when they say, "Look right here, John 14:16. This is about Muhammad." You say, "Okay, read the rest of the chapter where Jesus says that's the Holy Spirit, definitely not Muhammad." No, you can't do that. Like, wait a minute. If what he just said is true, then if you guys go to the Bible and you try to interpret a passage, then we say, no, you have to accept all of the Christian views about this entire passage. They would never in a million years agree to that. And they're saying that's what we have to do with their story about Muhammad getting banged in the desert by the men of al-Zutt? No. The answer is no. You guys don't get to make hypocritical rules like that and think that they apply. But fortunately, it sounds like Hamza agrees with us that that's a stupid made-up rule.
Yeah, so the Hadith calls Muhammad the prophet, the messenger of Allah. So because you reject that, he's the messenger of Allah, you can't possibly even use this story against us because you don't believe that. It's like, what the heck? What kind of world are you living? What color is the sky in your world, dude?
Mm-hmm. Wild stuff.
Just means we can be held accountable to those things. I think, my chairman.
It's okay. No. I'll drop my chair down too. There we go.
Okay.
Same level.
So let's just imagine. Okay.
Look, you even saw the green screen.
They don't have to believe it.
Hold up. When his chair went down, look.
I think he ate too many dates in his chair.
I think.
Well, there we go.
It's okay. No. I'll
see his arm coming in there on the right.
Yeah.
My chair down too. There we go.
Okay. So let
quit making it so obvious.
Good catch.
And look at these flowers, how fake they look. They're like in a cartoon or something.
Let's just imagine. Okay, I don't think personally that is going to have an effect to say, well, they weren't people, they were jinn. Do any scholars say that they were riding him like a horse?
No, there's no scholar that ever considered that this was the riding of like a horse.
Right.
Where even when
we don't interpret it as riding him like a horse either, like he's galloping around and they've got a saddle on him and stuff like that. That's the point. If you're using it for what someone is doing to another person, it means sex. It could mean riding, but he jumped on his back and then he rode him around. He rode around like a horse or something like that. So no, I can't imagine anyone saying, they put a saddle on him and rode him like a horse. Don't know why anyone would think that. So don't know why you're bringing it up.
Scholars talk about it, they will quote the meaning of yarkabun, meaning that it's to crowd upon.
To crowd upon. Okay.
Correct.
So this is the important part. So in our tradition, that's never been understood to ride. So you can never get to the sick understanding of that word, or that new understanding of that
word.
So Muslims don't have that understanding that he was, he said that they're not understanding it as them riding him around like a horse. Therefore, you can never get to that understanding unless you just look at what the word means and you look at what it sounds like it's saying.
Yeah, exactly.
He said there were some scholars that said crowd. I want the name of the scholar and the page and the book.
Yeah, because Ali Dawa, he probably says it, and then Muhammad Hijab, he probably said.
Yeah,
so
and
what we're
saying is this stuff might exist, but we give us the evidence. Like they just talk. They don't give any evidence.
And he has lying body language when he says it. He doesn't do eye contact, and he looks like he says our scholars say crowd.
Mm-hmm.
the fake scholars, the invisible scholars that no one has heard of before. Because you know for sure if they had a scholar who said that, that scholar would be on the screen everywhere.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Why aren't you guys bringing up these scholars in response to the story? We're posting videos that are getting tons of views. We're talking about it. You guys are saying a bunch of things, many of which we know are factually false, and you won't give any sources for the rest of the things you're saying. That just looks awfully suspicious.
Because this is a term that has come about in modern language and modern,
all right, let me just cover. If it said hump.
See that they're back to this is something that came up in modern language that you could ride someone. No, sorry, we already showed that goes on in the Muslim sources as well.
Yes.
Yeah. If he was humped all night, astaghfirullah, you couldn't get around that. But to say you could only say he rode like a horse, which doesn't make any sense.
Exactly.
So
everyone, do you understand his entire argument right now? It's like, oh, but our scholars don't think it means rode like a horse. That doesn't make any sense. Therefore, it doesn't mean ride. Therefore, it must have been crowded. We already showed in Muslim sources they use this word rode to refer to sex, and so all of this, everything they're saying right now is complete nonsense. Just complete nonsense. It's already been completely destroyed.
You're somebody, and you've got two choices to either these entity either crowded him or put a saddle on him and rode him like a horse, right? And you have to choose one, and you look at the context. He's there, he's gone into the desert, he's reading the Quran to them. Why would they ride him like a horse?
Now it's just a straw man, right? It's they're saying you rode him like a horse. Man. No one's saying that. No one. No, literally no one. None of us, not Raymond Ibrahim, not me, not Jai, not DOC. No one is saying they rode him like a horse. They use a word here. You've got a definition that we don't see anywhere, but you could show it to us if you have it and show us where it's used. But wherever you see this word, if you see it's used with an animal, it's riding. But if it's used of what one person, what a man is doing to his wife or something like this, it's sex. And whatever it was, that's what these Zutt guys in the desert were doing to Muhammad. So what you need to look, Hamza. Let's break it down into 3, right? You said break it down into 2. It's, they're riding him like a horse, or it means crowding around. Let's break it down. They're riding him like a horse. That's one interpretation. They're crowding around him, or they're banging him, right? The riding like a horse, that doesn't make any sense, as you agree. So that one's gone. The crowding around him, we don't see any evidence for it, and it doesn't fit. Why is people crowding around him, leaving him in pain, and then he goes and collapses and passes out on Abdullah ibn Mas'ud's lap and so on. So that doesn't make any sense. What does make sense? Whatever this is about, they're banging him. That's the one that makes most sense. That's why it sounds like that to us.
But they think that if they repeat something enough, it becomes an option.
Mm-hmm.
Crowding.
Yep.
We can't grant that. It doesn't appear in any dictionary. If it does, I want to see it. Yep. So you putting it as an option. So they added an option that was never there, the crowding, and they removed an option that should have been there, the sexual side.
Yeah, so they took the option that sounds like what the passage is saying, and they just ignored it as an option. And then the option he goes with is one that they made up for themselves.
Yeah, we showed evidence that it's sexual from Ali ibn Abi Talib talking about women and men doing things.
Yeah, they flat out made up. Oh no, it's never used like that. Yes, it is. It is used like that. So they're making up an alternative meaning for the word. They're making up the idea that it wasn't used in a sexual sense. Everything is just made up. Guys, if you have to constantly make things up to respond to the story of Al-Zutt, that kind of tells us something, right? If you have to make up a bunch of things to avoid what the story implies, maybe what the story implies is that's what happened.
That's a great point, because imagine if we had to do these like gymnastics when they brought up like Rebecca's 3 when she was 3, and we had to do this kind of like gymnastics that they're doing. I mean, then people might be like, oh, maybe they're onto something. Maybe Rebecca really is 3/4 of the Bible. If we had to do this kind of stuff, But obviously, all we need to literally do is just read the Bible. It's really clear. We just read Genesis 22, go towards the end, and it's like, unless you're positing that Rebecca's born the same time as her father is, then, your interpretation is already out the window. But, so they're supposed to be steel manning us. Mm-hmm. But as we established, they don't know what these words mean. So they're actually doing the opposite of that.
And let's put a rule. You don't introduce an option without evidence. Because if that's the case, you can
option
say
without evidence.
Yeah, no dalil, no deal is what we're trying to say.
No deal, no deal.
Dalil means evidence.
Yeah.
No dalil, no deal. Because you can do that with anything. Jesus was Lord in Islam.
Okay,
that's an option.
They're going to ask us, where's the evidence?
That's an option.
Yeah.
I can't just say that, right? I have to provide evidence. They're sitting down the chair in the little Aladdin storybook saying this is an option. What makes me want to believe you without evidence? Nothing.
Crowd him.
So let's go back to what the these missionaries say though. Don't they say something about there's a mention of men in that hadith?
Okay.
You want to ask me about that?
Yeah. They understand it to mean, like I said, black men with long.
Wait a minute. Hold on a second. Remember the first version of the hadith that he read, and it actually said men, and you pointed out, see, it says men.
Mm-hmm.
So remember, he's the one who brought the hadith, and it was his translation that said men. And now he's saying, oh, don't the missionaries say that it says men? Dude, you said it earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Talia. It's like the opposite of the hadith. It's like doesn't even mention that.
Correct.
But yeah. So
he's talking about their penises and so on again, saying, but it doesn't say that. We already broke that down for you, buddy.
they use the term men. So you've already established.
Yeah, well, no, we were talking about this behind stage earlier.
Yeah.
So they say because the hadith says that to Ibn Mas'ud, the Prophet says, "Don't move from there, for there will come to you who
Men.
men." So they're like, okay, therefore that's not.
They are
this
humans.
is how they set up their straw man.
Right.
Okay, they're humans, and this is why I want to go to the verse in Surah Al-Jinn right now.
Yeah.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وأنه
Oh, it's so powerful, I want to convert.
كان رجال من الإنس يعوذون برجال من الجن فزادوهم رهقا.
See, that's how it works, guys. You can make up a ton of things to respond to a story, and you can just keep making things up and make up meanings of words and make up rules and make up history and all this stuff. But if you recite the Quran, you must be right.
Yeah, it's like Muhammad Hijab when he tries to recite the
Yep.
Quran. It just sounds so ugly. Like these guys have terrible voices when they do it.
He recited it to Jordan Peterson, and Jordan Peterson said, "No, I don't buy your app."
How about no?
وأنه, and verily there were, from كان رجال من الإنس, from humans, يعوذون, seeking refuge, seeking protection, برجال من الجن, min from the jinn. And in the hadith where it says, for the Prophet ﷺ talks to him, he doesn't say ins, he doesn't say humans, he just says, there will come to you rijal min, which the Quran tells us that jinn and humans, there are men from them.
So
then who is he getting banged by?
Men of jinn.
Men of jinn. We're willing to grant it. We'll grant it to you, Muslim cowboy. Men of jinn who look like men of Zutt.
that would then say that we believe as Muslims that the jinn have male and female, as human beings have male and female. Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely. Right? Unlike the angels who are genderless. They're not male, nor are they female. Yeah. And so this takes apart this idea that, okay, now they're saying, of course it says that they're men. Yeah, they're men from the jinn, right? And also, as I mentioned in other hadith, it talks about them being men. And if you're anyone who's not a schoolboy, if you're a proper scholar of anything, when we look in Islamic hadith, literature and in scholarship of hadith, you can't take one hadith in isolation. Just like you can't take one ayah in isolation, because there's not only the issue of nasikh wal mansukh, abrogation, there's also the issue of you're reading one thing, and when the Prophet ﷺ would teach it, he would teach it with other hadith. There was other things that came, certain periods of time, and so you have to understand it all together. And also, there might be a way that one sahabi narrated something, And he narrated it correctly, but he left out a few information that another one gained. And so when you put it all together, this is how you get a full picture of what Islam says. And I'll give a perfect example, and this is where some people have gone wrong.
What do you guys think? There's about 10 minutes left of this video. Do we want to finish it, or do we think we've got everything?
I think we got everything. I just want to point out something real quick. This is not Muhammad teaching anything. It's Ibn Mas'ud narrating what he saw. So he's already wrong on that. But yeah, I think we basically covered it. All.
Unless he has source that says this is when Muhammad talked back to about this story, saying giving more detail. Then I would grant that. But he doesn't do that. At least I don't think so.
Yeah.
He doesn't do that unless Muhammad clarifies what happened that night, which doesn't exist, I don't think.
Yeah, so I think we got their perspective that this would actually be about Jinn, and we're saying, they say he's describing what he saw, and he describes it as there's some guys that look like men of Zutt out there. And then you have people say, this is about Jinn, and okay, Jinn are physical beings. Muhammad getting banged by men of Zutt, or Muhammad getting banged by Jinn who took the form of the men of Zutt? We don't understand how either one of those would help you. But what you really want is Muhammad's going out into the desert to preach the Quran to Jinn, who are so eager to hear it that they're just kind of crowding around him. And why does this leave him in pain? And why do they use a word that means sex when you're talking about what someone's doing to another? So anyway, but yeah, guess what? We could grant your interpretation. Say, yep, Muhammad went out in the desert to preach to the Jinn. We could grant that. But that would be a charitable interpretation. We've already told you why we're not going with charitable interpretations here. You guys made the rules. We're holding you to account with them. Seems like I do that a lot, doesn't it? Doesn't seem like we end up doing that a lot. We say, okay, is this the rule, Sam? Is this the rule? This is the rule? You just start blasting people without hearing them out and say, okay, well, we can do that. We can do that. You made the rule. All
Same
right,
measure.
Here we're doing it over and over again. Same measure. That's kind of all we do. All God logic does is read. All he does is read. All we do is apply your standard to you over and over again.
All we do is win.
All we do is win.